Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This one we are recapping week 13 of the NFL season, looking at what went right, what went wrong, my cash game rankings, and the main lineup I ended up using for my single entries and cash games. I only play one lineup a week, so this is how I did last week. I'd like to be transparent, good or bad. And then we're going to look at the winning lineup in one of the GPPs I was in. I believe I took this one from the $555, I think it's called the Stiff Arm single entry, so we'll take a look at that. And then we'll look ahead at week 14 of the NFL season. Just my first initial reactions on this slate. As always, take this lineup that I'm going to build as a grain of salt as we have a whole week of research. I'll get my core plays video out probably on Friday, so we have that to look forward to. But it's always fun to just look at the pricing and the matchups on this slate and just see what pops up right off the top of my head. So before we continue, if you guys could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. Got a good amount of subscribers over the weekend, so that was nice. So hopefully we can get to 3K pretty soon. We're very, very close. I think we're going to get there by the time Sunday rolls around. So if we do, thank you. If not, half thank you. And if you don't follow me on Twitter, I'm at ChrisPinell16. And for instance, especially I build every single week. It's the best time to sign up actually because it's the second of the month. And obviously on Patreon, you want to sign up at the beginning of the month because you get charged on the first of the month. So best time to do so. And this is just a very simple portion of my spreadsheet. This is just my cash game rankings. There's a lot better stuff on the quarterback, running back, wide receiver pages as well. And yeah, I think that's enough plugging. I say we get right into the video. So at quarterbacks, if you wanted to spend up, I had Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes as my number one spend up options. Really low, Jared Goff was my favorite quarterback play on the slate. But just starting off with Lamar, the guy just continues to have a good week every single week, no matter his matchup or whatever. They're playing in the rain versus San Francisco, one of the toughest matchups you can ask for a quarterback, and he still scores 26.3 fantasy points, only had 105 passing yards, one passing touchdown, but he still had 16 rushing attempts, 101 yards on the ground, and one touchdown. The guy just continues to be pretty much the safest quarterback you can play every single week, despite the matchup. So yes, Lamar Jackson, he was fantastic. And then as for Patrick Mahomes, I had a little bit of concern with him for the weather. There was actually a lot of weather on this slate. It kind of screwed me pretty much. You guys will see soon. But Patrick Mahomes, he had 19 fantasy points. If you're paying $7,400 for a guy, you definitely were pretty disappointed. Only 175 passing yards, one passing touchdown, 15 for 29. Did have the rushing touchdown though, which pretty much saved his day. If he didn't get that rushing touchdown, we're looking at one of the biggest flops on the slate. So Patrick Mahomes, that rushing touchdown saved you. But 19 fantasy points, definitely not what we're looking for. But Jared Goff, this was the guy I liked all week. He was pretty much my number one QB. I was surprised by the ownership. I thought he would be a little bit lower owned because of how horrible he's been. I believe he didn't throw a touchdown since like week 8 versus Cincinnati. He came in at 6% owned. I think in cash games, he was right around the same. This was in the GPP, the ownership. But he was 6% in this contest. And I was like, when I saw that, I was excited because I had a lot of confidence in Jared Goff. He does good in good matchups and he sucks in bad matchups. That's just the kind of guy he is. And he ended up balling out. He had, 322 passing yards in the first half alone. I thought we were going to get like 500 passing yards, honestly. Unfortunately, the Rams defense did score a defensive touchdown and kind of hurt the stack a little bit because I honestly think he could have went for 503 in this matchup easily. Maybe 4 if Todd Gurley didn't get a rushing touchdown. But he had 27.96 fantasy points, 32 for 43, 424 yards, 2 touchdowns. If he didn't get pulled, like I said, we were looking at a pretty easy 500-yard day with 3 to 4 touchdowns. So unfortunately, the Cardinals didn't hold up their end of the bargain on making this a really good game stack. But still, Jared Goff had a very good game. Andy Dalton, he was just incredibly too cheap. He let you pretty much fit in whatever you wanted. Did he do great? No, it was pretty windy in not Cincinnati. I believe it was in New York. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was in New York. Either way, it was windy. And yeah, it was 22 for 37, 243 yards, and 1 passing touchdown. Not great, but he was also only 4,700, so 13 points doesn't kill you. And then Nick Foles, this was the flop of the week. I did have him as a core play. I'm not going to say I didn't like him that much. I did downgrade him a little bit with the weather that was assumed in this game, or I probably would have had him a little bit. Probably would have had him in Andy Dalton spot, but with the weather, I did downgrade him a little bit. But he ended up being absolutely awful. 1.02 fantasy points, 5,700 versus Tampa Bay. I love the matchup. I mean, you can't argue that the matchup wasn't there, but he definitely flopped. He ended up getting benched, 7 for 14, 93 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 2 fumbles lost. The guy was a mess, and now Gardner Minshew is the starter again. We got the notification probably about an hour or two ago. So yeah, Nick Foles, he absolutely burned you. I apologize if you did play Nick Foles. Carson Wentz, I had him at number 5, and he did fantastic. I believe he had 28.4 fantasy points, 28 for 46, 310 yards, 3 touchdowns. I actually lost this game versus Miami. I did not expect this game to really turn into a shootout. I expected it more to be like at least a lower scoring game. I thought the Eagles would put up some points, but I did not expect the Dolphins to absolutely ball out like they did. So that was great if you played Carson Wentz to keep him active the entire game. So yes, he had a pretty darn good day if you played him, only 5,800, so he was a really good play. As for the running backs, Christian McCaffrey, of course he flopped, right? I was off him last week because of the tougher matchup, and then he flops in a great matchup versus Washington, but that's just how fantasy goes sometimes. He was 68% in my GPP, 17.2 fantasy points. Even when he flops, he got 17, which, if other people flop, they're getting like 5 or 6. So I'll take the flop at 17, but definitely was wishing for more. But the volume was there again. 14 rushing attempts for 44 yards, 7 catches on 13 targets, 58 yards. I really thought we were going to get overtime in that late touchdown. I don't know if you guys were watching that Carolina game at the end, but they got the onside kick, and McCaffrey was on the 1-yard line because I believe it was DJ Moore who got tackled on the 1-yard line. I was like, all right, we're getting a free CMC touchdown. He's going to hit 20-some points. We might get some overtime here, and then he's going to hit value. They blew it. They did not get the job done. And they actually had CMC on a swing route out of the backfield. Kyle Allen, and he just didn't look his way. I honestly thought CMC could have caught it, made a move, and got a touchdown. But fortunately, that didn't happen. So McCaffrey, yeah, he busted. No way getting around that. Saquon Barkley, he also busted. He only scored 14 fantasy points. It was looking really rough, but at the last drive of the game, he kind of got some junk yards, but we'll take it. It all equals the same amount of points. 19 rushing attempts, 83 yards, 3 catches for 32 yards, and 7 targets. I like the volume. It was a good matchup. Just really didn't happen. Didn't get into the end zone, which is we were really kind of needing, but it ended up not happening. I believe he was 22% in my GPP. I really thought he was a solid play. I thought he was underpriced, but that Giants offense just continues to disappoint. Miles Sanders, that was a very good chalk this week. He was... Unfortunately, I got away from him in my single entry because I was scared of the weather in the Packers game. So I pivoted from Devontae Adams to get Cooper Kupp, and I thought it made sense because, I'm pairing up with Jared Goff. So I was like, I didn't really care too much. And then that forced me to move off of Miles Sanders to Phillip Lindsay, and that destroyed my lineup. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. I do have a lot of regret there. But yeah, Miles Sanders, he did fine. He ended up scoring, 21.5 fantasy points at 5,400. Just a great matchup versus Miami, one of the worst rush defenses in the NFL. 17 for 83, no touchdowns, but then he had that 5 catches for 22 yards, 5 targets, had that receiving touchdown very early in the game. So Miles Sanders definitely was great for his salary. Jonathan Williams, he sucked. He didn't do anything at all. Jordan Wilkins was involved. I'm scrolling through DK because I don't remember exactly how much everyone scored. Yeah, he had 3.5 fantasy points, only 8 rushing attempts. Indy did lose to Tennessee pretty good here, but 1 catch for 11 yards. Yeah, he was a big disappointment. That was a big flop of a play. Le'Veon Bell, he did not have a great game. 10.7 fantasy points. His string of good games ended. Did still get double digits, but definitely not what we're looking for Le'Veon Bell in a great matchup. Continues to be inefficient. Only had 3.2 yards per carry on 10 rushing attempts. 4 catches for 35 yards on 5 targets. Just didn't work out for Le'Veon Bell this week. And Phillip Lindsay, I did not do great with running backs this week. I got Miles Sanders pretty good, but he was also like 90% owned, so who cares? But yeah, Phillip Lindsay, I thought this was a pretty good matchup versus the Chargers. He killed them earlier in the season for 27 fantasy points. I know he's in a timeshare with Royce Freeman, but the volume was there. He had 17 rushing attempts, and he also had 3 catches. So he got 20 touches, and if you're telling me Phillip Lindsay's going to get 20 touches at 5K versus the Chargers, I'm probably moving him up to like 3 or 4 here on this ranking. But it just didn't happen. He only had 58 rushing yards. I thought we were going to get bailed out with some overtime, but then the pass interference on Casey Hayward at the end of the game, absolutely inexcusable. But yeah, Phillip Lindsay, 9.2 points. Could have done worse, but definitely not what we're looking for. So that was pretty disappointing. As for the wide receivers, I made up for it with the wide receivers this week. I thought I was pretty right on point with the wide receivers. So first, let me point out, I do have an asterisk here, and I had this on before the game started. I said, if weather was perfect, Adams is my clear number 1 wide receiver. He was my court play banner, the poster boy for that video. I said he's my lock of the week. I just didn't know if I wanted to take the risk on it in cash games or not. And I learned a hard lesson. I learned not to fade Davante Adams just because it's going to be a little snowy. I made a mistake there. So he was my number 1, and then I had Kupp number 2, but I moved Adams down to 6 because I just wasn't sure. I didn't know if I wanted to do it or not. I felt like Cooper Kupp in a dome, great matchup versus Arizona, was just a safer play at that point. So, I mean, Kupp did fine. It's not like he sucked or anything, so I didn't feel too bad about it, but he didn't outscore Davante Adams. Davante Adams did come in pretty high owned. As soon as I saw Draftkings update the ownership when all the games locked, I was like, oh my gosh, he's 68% owned. I was like, oh no, it's over. But but let's start off with Cooper Kupp. He had a pretty good game. Not as good as Robert Woods, but ended up scoring 18.5 points. Again, got pulled early, so we didn't get a full game out of him, but still 6 catches on 6 targets, 65 yards, got the touchdown. Solid, not great, but pretty solid. Tyler Boyd, he had a pretty good game here. He had a good game early, then he really didn't do anything after that, but still 16.9 fantasy points, had 10 targets, which I like versus this Jets secondary, 5 catches for 59 yards, got the early touchdown, and all the chalk this week, I swear, all the chalk just went off in the first quarter of all the 1 o'clock games. Doyle scored, Boyd scored, Miles Sanders scored, Davante Adams scored. It was like chalk, score. It was crazy. But yeah, Tyler Boyd, he was fine. D.D. Westbrook, he was a little bit lower owned than I thought. I thought he was one of the easier value plays at wide receiver this week. Had him at number 3. He ended up scoring 19 fantasy points. Had 8 targets, 5 catches, 60 yards versus this bad Tampa Bay defense. It helped that they were playing from behind. Also had a 2-point conversion and did get into the end zone. So D.D. Westbrook was a pretty good play. Devontae Parker, he was the smash of the week. If you played Devontae Parker this week, you more than likely won a lot of money. Highest scoring wide receiver on the slate. Might have been the highest scoring player on the slate. I'm not totally sure, but 37.9 fantasy points, had 10 targets. I think that's like the 4th or 5th game in a row he's had at least 10 targets. 159 yards, 7 catches, 2 touchdowns versus this bad Philly secondary. Yeah, Devontae Parker was a smash play. Sterling Shepard had him at 5. Evan Ingram was out. Red Ellison was out. And Golden Tate was out. So he was like pretty much the only guy left, him and Saquon Barkley. So I thought that made him in play just by necessity. He ended up scoring. I know he got that really nice touchdown. I don't remember exactly. Yeah, he got 13 fantasy points. Not great, but not too bad at 4,900. 7 targets, 3 catches, 40 yards. One of them happened to be a touchdown, so Shepard was a pretty good play. Obviously, Davante Adams was a really good play. He ended up scoring, 20? Yeah, 24.4 points and 7K. He was just way too cheap versus the Giants. Darn weather just screwed me. I can't do that again. That was very, very bad on my part. But he still had a pretty good game. 24 points in the snow, 10 targets, 6 catches, 64 yards. Got 2 touchdowns, scored in the opening drive, I believe, for the Packers. So, yes, Davante Adams was a fantastic play. Auden Tate, I moved up on him later in the week. I just figured he was a little bit too cheap. I was heavier on Boyd, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to play him and Tyler Boyd, which I didn't, but I thought that'd be fine because they were just entirely too cheap. Got Andy Dalton back, and he was pretty good with Andy Dalton. So I thought Auden Tate made a pretty good value play. He ended up scoring 10 fantasy points. Not too bad at 3,800. Robert Woods, he surprisingly smashed. I thought this would be the game that I thought he had the game that Cooper Kupp could have had. Ended up scoring 33 fantasy points. I think he had 7 catches on the opening drive. I remember correctly. It was something insane, but I finished the game on 19 targets. 19 targets for Robert Woods, 172 yards, 13 catches, 33 fantasy points. Didn't get into the end zone, but he didn't need to. Robert Woods absolutely smashed. Then Chris Conley, just kind of like a pivot off of D.D. Westbrook if he can go all the way up there. I think he scored, I don't even remember, 9.7 fantasy points. Not terrible. 5 targets, 4 catches, 57 yards at his price tag of $4,500. Definitely would have liked to get the extra $500 for D.D. Westbrook, though. And as for the tight ends, I thought tight end was really easy this week. You played Tyler Higbee or you played Jack Doyle. I thought Travis Kelce was a fine, expensive option, but Tyler Higbee was the clear number 1 play. He was the bare minimum, $2,500. Gerald Everett was out, going up against Arizona, who gets routinely smashed by tight ends every single week. And he was actually the highest scoring tight end of the week as well. I mean, couldn't get better than that. 26 fantasy points. He was chalk, but 8 targets, 7 catches, 107 yards. They get into the end zone. Tight ends versus Arizona. And then Jack Doyle, he scored pretty early in that game. T.Y. Hilton was out. They were just had a ton of injuries. And, Jack Doyle had a pretty good matchup versus Tennessee Titans. Not the best matchup, but still. You're going to see an increased volume, especially with Eric Ebron being out. Had 11 targets, 6 catches, 73 yards, and a touchdown. Very, very good day for Jack Doyle. And then the rest of the tight ends, honestly, were just fillers at that point. I had Travis Kelce as the high-end option. He only scored 14, so that was a bit of a flop. Had 90 yards, but Darren Waller, he was good. 20 fantasy points. I wasn't planning on using anybody past Tyler Higbee or Jack Doyle. But yeah, Waller was fine. He had 9 targets, 7 catches, 100 yards. Pretty darn good. Then Dallas Goedert, he ended up with 12.6 fantasy points, 7 targets, 6 catches, 66 yards versus Miami. Yeah, all the tight ends did pretty good besides Kelsey. And as for the defenses, who cares? I had the Browns, Panthers, Eagles, something. I think they all sucked, honestly. So I had the Ravens on there. Actually, the Ravens did fine, but other than that, they all kind of sucked. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for the cash game rankings. This is the main lineup I ended up using. And like I said, I made some unfortunate pivots. The one on the left's mine. Or I guess the left. This thing's mirrored. So I went with Jared Goff. He was my quarterback this week. I thought, it was a good price, great matchup. Everyone smashes Arizona. I thought he'd be a little bit lower owned, which I don't typically go for low owned plays, but if I have a guy that I'm on and I think he's going to be lower owned, I'll take it, even in cash games. So like the Jared Goff play, 27 fantasy points. Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey, like I said, were my 2 main running backs this week, and I was running with them. Didn't really work out like I thought it would. I thought they could honestly each get me at least 25 points each. Didn't happen, though. I pivoted from Devontae Adams to Cooper Kupp, which sucked. It sucked a lot. I mean, it's not like Cooper Kupp absolutely, he scored 6 less points, but still. So my lineup cashed in some double-ups, and it didn't cash in some double-ups, so it's kind of like a whatever week. I actually did very well in the late slate. I pretty much stacked the Rams and then had Keenan Allen. So the late slate actually was very, very good for me. I think my late slate lineup scored 165, I think. So too bad I didn't use that in the main lineup. But yeah, Cooper Kupp was fine. I thought it was a good correlation play with Jared Goff. Then I played Auden Tate, D.D. Westbrook, Tyler Higbee. Unfortunately, we had to go down from Miles Sanders to Philip Lindsay. Didn't work out. And the Browns defense unfortunately gave up 20 points to Devlin Hodges. So that was my main lineup. Scored 147.6. I think the example lineup I did on Saturday, I think that did a lot better than the one I just showed you. So hopefully you guys, if you did use the example lineup, I hope you guys did well with that. I don't know exactly how much it scored, but I probably got close to 160 if I had to guess. And this was the winning lineup in the $555 GPP I was in. They ended up going with, they had 207 points. They had Lamar Jackson. He scored 26 points. They had Christian McCaffrey, scored 17. That's why I said play these lower entry contests. So this was only 100 people. 23 people got paid out, so it's a 23% payout. And you don't have to score a lot of points to win a lot of money. If you're scoring 207 points in the Millie Maker, I don't know what you're getting, but it's not going to be anything substantial. You're probably only winning I have no idea, honestly, maybe $100. I'm not totally sure, but if you play these smaller entry contests, you're going to win a lot more money if you have a good week. So Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey. So if you have Christian McCaffrey in the Millie Maker, you're automatically just at a huge disadvantage. You can still play Christian McCaffrey in these kind of contests and win a GPP. It's not, you can do it because everyone's playing Christian McCaffrey because he's a good play. Miles Sanders, he had Miles Sanders as well. Alshon Jeffrey, he did very good versus this Miami defense, 31 points. Auden Tate, Robert Woods balled out. Tyler Higbee, 26 points. Leonard Fournette, 18 points. And the Chiefs defense, who got that touchdown, really helped him out as well. So that was the winning lineup in this contest. Actually, it would have took home 10K, but he actually tied with someone. So I don't know if they were doing some lineup sharing or not. I know that's kind of a hot topic in the DFS Twitter right now, but yeah, they actually tied, which was actually pretty weird. But yeah, that was the winning lineup in this contest. And that's going to be it for the recap pretty much. I think we can head over to Draftkings and just look at the salaries and try to build a lineup. Alright, so the video might cut up a little bit here because I had to pause it and I had to do some NBA stuff because some news just broke. If you guys are playing NBA, you know how that goes. So I am back now and we're going to do this first look lineup. And I might go through it a little bit quicker because lock is coming up. I did want to get this video done and get it out pretty soon here. So I think there's a few ways you can go quarterback this week. Obviously, you can play Lamar Jackson every single week. There is never a bad week to play Lamar Jackson, but I am looking to spend down a bit. And I am liking Kyle Allen here. He comes in at only 5,700, and I do think he's a pretty solid play this week. Yes, you can play Sam Darnold versus Miami. They obviously suck versus quarterbacks. You could also play Ryan Fitzpatrick against his old team, the Jets. A little bit revenge narrative there, and they are very good versus the run, but they suck versus the pass. So you can play Ryan Fitzpatrick as well. But I do like Kyle Allen here going up against Atlanta, and I know he sucked last time versus Atlanta, but I think that's the lowest we're going to get out of him. He had 12 points, had 50 pass attempts, 4 interceptions, could not get the ball into the end zone, still had 325 passing yards. But the past 2 weeks, been pretty good. He stepped it up, 23 points and 25 points, going up against Atlanta, which is one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. This actually is the third highest over-under in Vegas right now. It's at 48.5. And they are 2-point dogs on the road, so I do expect him to have to throw the ball quite a bit. Is he going to throw the ball 50 times? I don't know, maybe not, but I do think he can be a little bit more efficient if he only has 40 pass attempts. Hopefully he gets, and he's got good weapons to throw to. He's got DJ Moore, he's got Curtis Samuel, he's got Christian McCaffrey. I know Greg Olson's beat up a little bit, but I think he's going to be fine here going up against Atlanta. They're allowing the third most points per game to quarterbacks at 23.8 points per game, third worst. So at only 5,700, I do think Kyle Allen's a pretty good option. And even if you don't play Christian McCaffrey, it's still a fine correlation play because McCaffrey had 13 targets last week. He's going to get the work every single week involved in the passing game as well. So Christian McCaffrey is fine if you want to play him with Kyle Allen. But yes, I think Kyle Allen is a fantastic play this week as of right now, so I'm going to plug him in. As for the running backs, a lot of good running back spots this week. You got Derrick Henry versus Oakland, Christian McCaffrey versus Atlanta. He scored 33 points last time versus Atlanta. Dalvin Cook, 9,500 versus Detroit. Chubb versus Cincinnati. Fournette versus the Chargers. A lot of good spots to go here. And obviously, yes, my number one option is Christian McCaffrey. And as I always say, let's try to get him in at the end of the week. But as of right now, I think Dalvin Cook's a pretty good pivot off of Christian McCaffrey for a little bit cheaper, and he's got similar upside here. So, okay. So, 9,500, and he has been amazing this season. He's been the second best player behind Christian McCaffrey when it comes to running backs. He's heavily involved through the passing game. Not as much as Christian McCaffrey. He's never going to see 15 targets in a game like CMC can, but he has been very good this season. If you just look at his game log, 16, 31, 15, 28, 30, 13, 29, 19, 27, 31, 29, and last time he played Detroit, 30 fantasy points, 25 carries, 142 yards, 2 touchdowns, was absolutely amazing. He's going to see targets every single week, 6, 7, 7, 6. Guy's good through the air. He's got a really safe floor, really high ceiling, and he's also a huge home favorite, and I always love my running backs as huge home favorites. They're coming in at 14-point favorites at home versus the Detroit Lions. Obviously, the Lions aren't looking too hot right now, although I know David Blau looked pretty good in the last game, but yeah, I think he's going to be fine here. His yards per carry were down heading into the bye week, but fresh legs. I don't know how he's going to do tonight. Probably pretty good, but he'll be fine. Dalvin Cook versus Detroit, definitely a really good RB1 option. Has 30-point upside in this matchup. So we're going to plug him in as our RB1. Then as our RB2, I'm liking Leonard Fournette here at 7,800. Again, he's another guy that's going to get a ton of volume. I believe he's getting the second most touches per game right now, only behind Christian McCaffrey. And if you look at his last 2 games, he has 18 catches and 23 targets. That's like Alvin Kamara numbers. That's near Christian McCaffrey numbers. I love that out of my running backs. And he had 36 points versus Tennessee, 18 points last week versus Tampa Bay, which is the toughest matchup you can ask for right now for a running back. But he's going to get you 20-plus touches. I think he's averaging like 25 per game right now. The volume's there, and this is a very good matchup versus the Chargers, who are, I think, 25th DVA versus to run. They're right around there, but they're giving up, 27.1 points per game to running backs. Leonard Fournette's the main guy back there. That's bottom 10 of the league versus the running backs. I think Fournette's going to be in for a huge day. If he can get into the end zone, we'll take it. He's been struggling with that this season, but if he does, I think we're in for a monster game. Even if he doesn't, he'll have a solid day. And if you look at his game log, 18, 36, 12, 12, 20, 19, 17, 26, 29, 15, 12, 12. The guy has been amazing this season. So Leonard Fournette, I will plug him in as my RB2, and I feel pretty good about my 2 running backs right now. I know I felt good last week about McCaffrey and Barkley, but still, I feel good about this as well. Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette. And as for the wide receivers, it's having a little bit of trouble. I always seem to have trouble with my wide receivers in the beginning of the week. I usually lock them down but at the end of the week. But as of right now, I want to pair Kyle Allen with one of his receivers, and DJ Moore is 7K. But yes, he has been fantastic, obviously. 19, 34, 17, 24, 28, 15, 15, 7, 3, 17, 13. Last time he played Atlanta, he was only 5,900. 7K now, though. I think he's going to be good, but I'm probably going to have to pass, so I'm going to pair him up with one of his cheaper wide receivers. And let me just check into a status update on Greg Olsen really quick. So I want to see how bad it was. So he did enter the concussion protocol. We're not sure if he's going to play. If he doesn't, it just opens up more targets for guys, like DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey and Curtis Samuel. Don't know if he's going to play or not, but I think Curtis Samuel is still a pretty good play here at only 4,900. Pretty darn cheap, and he's been pretty solid this season. Is he as safe as DJ Moore? No, but I think he's going to be fine. 16 points last week, then 5, 6, but 13, 16, 8, 23, 7, 6, 13, or 16, 14, 6. Not too bad. He's only 4,900. We get our quarterback wide receiver pairing, which I like to do every single week. Just makes for good correlation. Going up against this Atlanta secondary, I think Curtis Samuel can have a fine day at 4,900. And also another value wide receiver I like is Auden Tate going up against the Cleveland Browns, whose defense is not too great. I know they're 9th DVOA versus the pass right now, and they've been pretty stingy against opposing wide receivers and quarterbacks, but this defense isn't looking too great right now. They lost Myles Garrett, which definitely hurts the passing game, and it's going to be a direct correlation to the corners because, when you lose the pass rush, it gives the quarterback more time to throw, and you can pick apart the defense a little bit better, and I think they're going to start getting exposed in the secondary a little bit because Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward have not been good whatsoever. They've got a lot of injuries on that defense right now, and he's been pretty good with Andy Dalton under center. He had 10 points last week, 7 targets, and then before that, 6, 6, 13, 6, 11, 6, 6, 10, 2. I can't really count the first 2 games because it really wasn't that involved. But Auden Tate, 4K. I think that's pretty good. He was pretty chalky last week at only being 3,800. Another decent matchup here. Tyler Boyd would get the most attention from this offense. So I think Auden Tate, I think he's got a good chance of getting to the end zone. He's a big body, 4K. I don't mind the punt there. They're also 7.5 point dogs on the road. So I would expect this to be a pass-heavy attack. And we've seen receivers have some solid days versus this Browns defense. So I have no problem plugging in Auden Tate at only 4K. He's not going to hurt us if he only gets us about 10 points, which I definitely think is doable. Then for the next wide receiver position, I'm liking. So I liked Odell's price here. He comes in at 6,300, which I think that's a solid play. I got to say, though, he's not been too good. 5.9, 20, 10, 10, 13, 10, 19. Yeah, double digits in a lot of games in a row, but still, it's not like Odell Beckham games. 6, 4, 11, 31, 14. Not too bad. But honestly, I think a safer way to go is Jarvis Landry here. He comes in at 200 more, but honestly, he's the wide receiver 1 on this offense. He has been great. It's weird to say, but Jarvis Landry has the better connection with Baker Mayfield, and he has been very consistent. 11 targets last week, 13 points. 13 targets, 39 points. 7 targets, 14, 24 points, 17 points, 11 points, 6, 11, 27, 9, 6, 11. He has been very, very good, and I know it's weird to pay more for Jarvis Landry than Odell, but that's just the way it is now. You got to look past name value, and Jarvis Landry, obviously he's a good wide receiver. He's got the safer targets, or receptions, I should say. Odell's still seeing targets, but they feel forced. With Landry, it feels like just more better flow. It's going to be the safer, Odell can obviously blow a game open with a couple long touchdowns, but I think Jarvis Landry is the safer play here. So I don't mind plugging in Jarvis as a safe, 15-point play with upside of more. We've seen it. So Jarvis Landry definitely in play for me. And as for the tight end position, let me just check something for NBA. Okay. I got to make sure there's no injuries popping up because it's 6:30 and I'm going to pop off and just finish up some stuff. But just wanted to make sure there wasn't a big injury news I was missing. But as for tight end, I think there's 2 obvious plays this week as of right now. So Jack Doyle really pops out to me at 4,600 versus Tampa Bay, and then Vance McDonald's 4,300 versus Arizona. We just saw Tyler Higbee have the game of his life versus Arizona. Vance McDonald, it feels gross, but it happens every single week. You can definitely play Vance McDonald versus Arizona, but I prefer 300 more. You get Jack Doyle, and it's almost as good of a matchup. Not as good, but it's almost there. And no Eric Ebron. T.Y. Hilton was a scratch last week. And this game has a 50.5 point over-under, which is highest on the slate. So points are expected to be scored in this game. They are road dogs on this game, and I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball very well versus this Tampa Bay defense. So I expect this to be an aerial attack for the Indianapolis Colts. And Jack Doyle coming at 4,600. I think he's going to be a big part of this. And he had 11 targets last week, 6 catches, 19 points. Tampa Bay is the 4th worst team versus tight ends right now, allowing 16 points per game to the position. Jack Doyle's the only guy there. I think he's a pretty good play at 4,600. Unfortunately, his price came up 1,300 from last week, but it's deservedly so, and I still think this is a fair price for him. I think he's a very safe play. I think he gets you 50 to 80 yards here and probably gets into the end zone. So Jack Doyle, I do think he's a very good play at tight end this week. And at this point, we have 3,500 left, and I'm about to do something I really don't want to do. But in my flex spot, there's a really cheap running back that we can play with Kalen Ballage looking like he is done for a while. So Patrick Laird here, he comes in at 4,100, and trust me, I don't want to do this. And I know he was like a meme, a DFS meme 2 weeks ago when he scored 2 points, but last game wasn't too bad versus Philly, and it's a tough matchup. And Kalen Ballage is out, and he saw 61% of the snaps last week. He's the pass-catching running back here. Myles Gaskin does exist, but this is going to be the pass catcher here. He played the majority of the snaps. He had 10 carries for 5 yards. Did get a touchdown, though, but 5 targets, 4 yards, 43 yards. We've seen him involved versus Buffalo in the passing game where he had 6 targets, 51 yards. He's really cheap. He's 4,100. This is an awful matchup, though, I got to say. The Jets are like top 3 in DVOA versus the run. They're not allowing a lot of points to running backs whatsoever. But if you're this cheap and a pass catcher, you're going to be in play for me. And he definitely has a chance to get a goal line touchdown, which I would take. So 4,100, I don't think Patrick Laird is the worst play in the world. And I expect him to have some ownership as well. So we're going to plug him in right now as our RB3. And that's going to give us 2,900 left for defense. And you get the Bills and the Ravens. I will side with the Ravens there just because the Ravens defense has been great lately. I mean, if you look at their game log, they've been awesome since week 5. So first few games were a little bit rough, except for Miami. But since week 7, 18, 13, 24, 15, 13, 7, they're healthy. Josh Allen can turn the ball over. They looked pretty good versus Dallas, but this Ravens defense is pretty good. We only have a 44-point total in this game, and the Ravens are 6 or 7-point favorites. 6-point favorites, so not going to be too many points scored by the Bills in this game, I presume. They are on the road, which sucks a little bit, but I think the Ravens are going to be fine here, so we will plug them in, and that's going to do it for a first look lineup. So I think this is solid as of right now. We got Kyle Allen, 5,700 versus Atlanta. It's a really good matchup. Points are expected to be scored in this game. Dalvin Cook as our bell cow running back versus Detroit. Great matchup there. They are giving up, the second most points per game to running back, so definitely got to like Dalvin Cook. Leonard Fournette versus the Chargers, another bell cow running back that can catch the ball. Curtis Samuel, just our pairing with Kyle Allen. He's pretty much our wide receiver 2. Auden Tate is our punt wide receiver 3, going up against Cleveland. I don't mind that at all. They should be throwing the ball quite a bit. Gets Andy Dalton back. Jarvis Landry, 6,500. The guy's been elite. There's no way getting around that. I know I'm a Browns fan, so I sound a little biased, but Jarvis Landry has been extremely good. The price is up, but I still think he's a fantastic play. Prefer him over Odell. Jack Doyle versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Great matchup. No Ebron. T.Y. Hilton's banged up. A lot of points should be scored in this game. It's a really tough defense to run on, so Jack Doyle makes a lot of sense. Patrick Laird, because he's a warm body that's available in the backfield right now, is going to see the majority of the snaps. Then the Ravens defense, they fit at the end. So many guys, not a lot of in-depth research here, but just me going through my first initial reactions on this slate. Hope this video was helpful. If it was, remember to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter. I'm at ChrisPennell16, and I will see you guys in the next video. Probably the core plays video or the Thursday night showdown video, either one of those. But anyway, and if you're interested in the spreadsheet, links on the description below for my Patreon and my Discord. And wish you guys